Hi everyone. It's been a little while. Welcome back to Conscious Conversations with Ascending Tribe. I'm Alex, creator of Ascending Tribe, and you can join our monthly workshops online by sending us an email at alex@ascendingtribe.com. Again, I'm so happy to introduce today's guest, who has a wealth of information and wisdom to share with you all. Introducing Chris Edward. He's a pioneering philosopher, coach, and teacher of common law, sovereignty, empowerment, and freedom. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So do you want to give us, actually you've got such an interesting story and I've heard it a few times, but do you want to give us a bit more of an insight into your background, tell us more about your journey and how basically you came to where you are today, like your self-remembrance journey?
Right, okay. I started when I was 30 years old. Started when I was 30, left my corporate business management job, left my wife, left London and moved to India. Sold my house and started studying spiritual philosophy. That was pretty much the beginning. And the layers really, I have to recall going back to the common law days, was the very, 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 very beginning of the spiritual journey. In fact, you could say that when I first started studying common law, there was no idea of spirituality at all. There was no idea of Eastern or Western philosophy. There was no studying in that area. You could say that the common law led me into the spiritual journey, but it started with the law. It started with the parking ticket.
That was just what I was just about to ask. That what came first? Common law, spirituality. But I know it's like kind of they're intertwined. But so common law came first for you.
Yeah, it was a parking ticket. It started off with a parking ticket, and I just didn't want to pay it. It sounds really simple. I was just pissed off. I was pissed off that I got this parking ticket. I was like, I'm not paying this. And for me to be challenging authority was normal for me at this point. I'd been to military boarding schools. I'd had quite an authoritarian dad, teachers. I'd just been challenging everyone my whole life. And then the parking ticket was just the next prong on the ladder.
Right.
And my friend said, well, why don't you look into it? So I started researching council websites and I started looking at stuff like that. And we got off the parking ticket. And it was that simple. It was like, wow, if that's possible, then what else is possible? And that led me down a rabbit hole of years and years and years of studying.
So let's talk more about common law and let's get deeper into this. How would you describe common law to someone who doesn't know what it is, but in the most simplistic way?
Common law is the simplest form of interaction between people in a society. So if you're living in a society, we do not cause loss, harm, or injury, theft or fraud to any person, any man or woman, child. That is it. That is it. There is nothing more simpler than that. It's basically criminal law. Common law and criminal law are the same laws, particularly because you're causing someone a loss, harm, injury, theft, or fraud. These are criminal activities. The problem we're having with the maritime system is that they're penalizing us, fining us, penalties, and all of these things and charges, and no one is causing a loss, harm, or injury to anyone, and they're not committing theft or fraud. They're creating rules and regulations in our society which are extracting money out of us. So I am an advocate and passionate about teaching common law because I live according to my own truth. I know that I'm a good person. I know that I'm not causing anyone harm. And for that reason, I just won't pay to live on this planet.
I just want to touch more on common law in terms of the fact that where does it come from? And a lot of people are living their life not really realizing or understanding or with the awareness of what kind of law that the system operates under and actually the impact that it's having on everyday life. So where does common law come from? Who put us under maritime law? What is the difference? Like, how would you describe this to someone who had no awareness of what type of law we're even under?
Right. So the idea is when you study common law, you go back to divine law, natural law, Canonian law, back to the 10 Commandments. Essentially, with the common law is the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. thou shalt not steal. Really simple, basic rules and regulations so we can guide our way through social situations. But when you look at anthropology and you see societies grow into hundreds of thousands, millions, into billions, the governments needed to implement way more rules and regulations because there are more people to consider. So it sounds very simplistic for us to just resort back to the common law, but you know, if we didn't have parking tickets, for instance, everyone would park everywhere and it would just be a disaster. My thing is the extraction of money from society is why, because I know the maritime system has been very cleverly designed to take all of our money. And this is why I'm fighting, because we're living in a very challenging time financially. And if there was ever a time to educate people in this, to take back our power, now is the time to do that. The common law is common sense, and it goes all the way back throughout history. You could say it's the law or the Lord or the principles of the universe. Thou shalt not kill. Don't kill anything in the universe. You are part of that experience. So
what would you say to someone though that would turn around and say, but that's just how things are, Chris, we just have to pay, why are you fighting it, why are you trying to change things, that's just how things are, we have to pay bills?
Well, then they can choose to pay bills. The Buddhist in me doesn't want anyone to do anything that they don't want to do. But I'm on this planet to deconstruct old systems and reinvent new systems. That's what my calling is. That's part of my spiritual journey.
So you're saying to some extent we need parking tickets, things like parking tickets.
We need parking rules and regulations that people follow. But I don't agree with, I agree with the point system.
Yes.
Like driving license point system, I completely agree with, but I don't agree with the fine.
Okay, so it's just anything to do with like money. And what about council tax? Where does that fall into as well for you?
I believe that as a part of a society, we should be paying into and contributing to our bins getting collected and stuff like that. I perfectly agree with all of it. I just don't agree. I just don't agree with it being so high.
Okay, so
if you do the sums, if you do the adding up, we're being charged 3, 4, 5 times more than what it takes to run a country.
So there are quite a lot of people within the common law community that you and I know that are not paying council tax. What would you say about that, basically? Do you think that's okay that they're not paying council tax? Do you think they should be paying council tax? Do you think it's valid that, or do you not have any opinion?
Everyone's free to pay into whatever they want. This is what I'm an advocate of freedom, and freedom is the freedom of choice, which if somebody wants to pay council tax, I'm really happy for them. I want them to continue paying council tax. If people don't want to pay council tax, don't pay council tax. Sovereignty is about choosing your own experience.
Which leads us nicely onto sovereignty, actually, because I want to get more into sovereignty, because a lot of people don't understand what sovereignty is, what the meaning is, what the purpose is. How would you describe sovereignty? Like, what is that? When people start talking about it, like, especially when I start talking about it, a lot of people are like, what's sovereignty and what does that have to do with me?
Sovereignty is knowing that you're an expression of God. Sovereignty is knowing that you are not separate to the thing that we know as God, as the one infinite creator, energy. And sovereignty is knowing that you are that energy and that there is no one higher than you. You are sovereign. We are all sovereign beings on this earth. There isn't someone that isn't sovereign. We're all sovereign beings. The issue we're having is that humanity forgot that they were sovereign in a veil of forgetting. And part of the sovereignty and empowerment is that we convince people to remember that they are sovereign. You don't have to answer to anyone on this planet at all. There's no one to answer to. You are free to do whatever you feel, providing you do not cause loss, harm, or injury, theft, or fraud to another person. This is the freedom that sovereignty brings. We get to choose where we put our money, what we spend our money on, how many taxes we pay, how much we pay in taxes, where our money goes when we pay taxes. This is our money and we get to choose where we put it. The issue we're having is that the governments over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years have controlled and manipulated the masses who didn't know that they were sovereign. And part of my movement is to allow people to remember that they too are powerful. They're powerful beings, and there shouldn't be anything tilted above anyone. I'm here to create complete equality on earth, where everyone looks eye to eye with each other, and there isn't a queen and a prime minister and an archbishop of Canterbury and all of these government officials and police and all the way down to the lower levels of society. It's just a bunch of people living on earth, all loving and respecting each other at the same time. Now, it sounds utopian and it sounds simplistic, but if someone has been to jail and been in fighting and was addicted to drugs and had all of the pain and all of the suffering that I've been through, can climb his way out of that suffering, then anyone can do it, because we're all mechanically identical. We're all the same. There isn't one person who is different to anyone else. If you're a human being, you can remember that you're sovereign and you can stand in your true power.
So you've got quite a large following on TikTok teaching common law.
Yeah.
What would you say are the benefits of learning and knowing about common law, and also how can it be applied into everyday life?
Okay, the benefits of knowing common law is that you get to save your time and energy. There is a very famous document written in the 16th century that referred to the Rothschilds as time lords. The reason time is so important in this factor is because money, in order to earn and generate money, you need to spend your time. And time is the most valuable commodity anyone has on this earth. From the moment we're born to the moment we die, the hourglass is ticking. And they, the people who are in control of this situation, know this, and they are charging our time. They're taking our time from us. So when you pay £100 fine, you're paying £100 time. You're paying £100 of your own lifetime, and you're giving them their time. They're extracting our time from us. And the benefits are you get your time back, you get your energy back, you get your freedom back, you get the freedom of choice. You actually get your free will. Free will is something that is given to every single sentient being that is born into this universe. Part of the creator's creation is that so he didn't have any control over any of his creations. So he bestowed upon all of his creation free will, the will to choose your reality. But these demigods or queens, these people have positioned themselves above us, are taking our own free will from us. They're telling us what we can and cannot do, and where we spend our time and where we spend our money and how much we pay. And these people are acting like our gods on earth when we ourselves are an expression of God.
That's beautiful. And just going further deep into that, if someone turned around and say, but what can I do, Chris? What can I do about that? That's just how things are. Like, what can I do to start taking the steps into sovereignty? Because there's a lot of fear-based conditioning, isn't there, around this, that we really do need to touch on. As you know, you've really helped me on my personal journey, and I've shed a lot of layers of fear. But that was a process for me. Like, I had to really feel into the fear. I mean, there were some days when I was like feeling a little bit of terror, if anything, more than fear.
For sure.
But like, so, you know, there's a lot of people that are conditioned within that fear. How would you advise them to start stepping away from that fear, or moving through the fear, or feeling through the fear?
The truth is, fear and love are polarities. And like everything, you actually, all you need to do is acknowledge that you have fear, that you are afraid of what might happen. You don't need to do anything about fear. Fear is a completely natural and healthy protection mechanism against things. Fear will keep you alive. If, for instance, if you're walking through the jungle 10,000 years ago, the person who feared the saber-toothed tiger was the one that survived, and the one who didn't fear the saber-toothed tiger got eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. So fear is a completely natural and organic thing that we and the universe created to protect us. The only issue is we're trapped in it. We've generations and generations and generations of fear, and it encompasses our whole being. It prevents us from moving forward. It prevents us from taking a chance. It prevents us from stepping outside the safety box. And it just keeps everyone in this state of fear. Now that's perfect if you want to control the population. If you want dominion over millions of people, keep them in a state of fear, because then you keep your crown on your head. This is the game that we're playing. The way that I got through it was by, it sounds very simplistic and very, just go within. Go within. Fear evaporates when you stare at it. Fear actually disappears, it evaporates, it dissipates once you realize that you're completely safe. You aren't even here. It sounds ridiculous, but we aren't even in this reality. I don't want to go too far into this, but what you are in your essence can't ever be touched. It can never be. You could chop off my arm and I'd still be here. The I would still be here. You could chop off the other arm, I'd still be here. You're not your physical body. So once you have that realization, once your attention shifts from physical reality to non-physical reality, you gain your sovereignty. Your sense of awareness has to shift back into a state of non-physical reality. And once you do that, fear disappears completely, because you realize, and I mean realize, to become real. It's a real experience where you realize that even in the face of adversary, even in the face of confrontation or even aggression, you have no fear. Because why would you fear it? You're not even here anyway.
I remember when we first started talking at the beginning of this year, and the thing that stayed with me was, Alex, you have to step into the frequency of sovereignty. And that always stayed with me. And you said that once I step into the frequency of sovereignty, I will start experiencing that projection of that frequency. So not like untouchable, but I just won't care. Like the fear dissipates, for example, because I'm standing in the frequency of my sovereignty. I'm aware of my sovereignty. And also the thing that helps me as well is, like what you were just saying, it's like seeing it from a higher perspective. It's like zooming above the forest and I can see all the trees. And it's like, you know, when it's a bit like a cosmic joke, because you're kind of just laughing and being like, I can see that this is not actually real. It's an illusionary system. But then you come back down, you ground in, and it's like, this feels really real though, you know, like while I'm here, it feels really real.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to touch more on what you mean by the frequency of sovereignty, or stepping into the frequency of sovereignty? I know what you mean, but for those that may not be aware of what that means.
Yeah, we are gods, to put it simple. God is omnipresent. Omnipresent means everywhere. There isn't a place in this entire universe where God is not. It's creating all of the atoms and all of the molecules, including the bones and skin and hair of our bodies. Everything is being created by this one infinite creator. And we are not separate from that. It is only our lower selves, or our ego, that creates the idea or concept that I am separate to you, or I am separate to anything. It's only our egos that create that separation. Once you dissolve that side of your psychological illusion, then you know that you're just expressing yourself fully. And you have a certain level of authenticity, and you have a certain level of power, and you have a certain level of fun. And fighting the government doesn't have to be stressful or fearful. It could be a fun experience that you have fun with, and you write the letters and you send them off, and they give you a letter back, and you're like, oh, cool, a letter. And you send them another letter, and they send you another letter, and you have no fear at all, because you know ultimately you're just playing a very elaborate game of chess. And at the end of the day, in 100 years, we'll all be dead. That's the truth. The fear of what the government are going to do to us is the fear of death. We have a fear that if we challenge our authority figures, that we'll be outed by the authority and we'll die. Because in anthropology, this is how society is structured. For instance, if you're living in a cave with 100 people 10,000 years ago, and you disagreed with the elders of that cave, they would push you out of the cave and you'd be killed. You'd freeze to death and a saber-toothed tiger would eat you. So when you're living in a construct, it's in your best interest to survive is to be in it. You have to be in it to survive. So when you start awakening to the construct and you want to step out of the construct, there is a fear of death deep, deep, deep down inside every human being. which, man, if I challenge the government, I'll die. They may not think I'll die, but deep down inside their sense of being, they need the government, the system, the elders, the elite in order to survive. But the truth is, we don't need these people. We need to just be self-sustainable. We need to build communities. We need to collaborate with lots of people. We have the internet. We can collaborate with anyone on the planet immediately at the push of a button. We have WhatsApp groups with 100 people in them. We have communities growing faster than you could possibly imagine now. And we don't need kings and queens and governments. We don't need these people anymore. And this is what I'm here to do. This is why I was born at this particular time, because we're going through a huge transition in humanity. And my purpose, my whole sense of being is compelled to share knowledge, philosophies, wisdom about law and spirituality, so that everyone on this planet at some point can have their realization, and we can all come together as one, and we can just tell the governments to go and do what they want to do.
So people might disagree with that, actually. There's a lot of people that actually believe that we need government and that we need to be ruled over. But I guess as well that is the conditioned mind, because we've had our power taken away from us. We've been mind controlled for many, many, many years. And most people are used to following. People actually don't know how to use their independent thought process anymore.
You just knocked the nail on the head. Mind control. Mentes, ment meaning mind, and govern meaning control. Government means mind control. Government controlling the minds of the people. So, and when the reason I know this to be true is simply because magic is words are spells, and authority is derived from magic. They have cast spells on us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, using written language and grammarianism and all of these different tools that they've known about for 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 5,000 years, who knows how long this goes back for. But it's time for change. It's time for change. It's time for change.
And I guess I completely agree with you as well, and I'm totally with you. I guess the language of legalese as well, and the language they use in law to entrap us or like confuse us or manipulate us, if you like, that is also a sense of like casting spells, because we don't understand the law language or the legalese that they use.
No, legalese is a very clever language, because what they've done is they've taken the actual common law, and then they've taken the English language, and they've created a language in between called legalese. So we look at it from this perspective and think that words mean this thing, and they look at it from this perspective and they know the words mean something different. So when we say summons or anything, contract, name, even the word name isn't what we think it is. When they say state your name, we think it means the thing that our parents called us, but they are implying something else. So when we say Christopher, blah, 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 they go, great. This is what we want. We needed you to contract. And if you say you have a name, then you're in the contract, you're in joinder. So don't, if a policeman or anyone says to say your name, don't say your name. Don't say anything to anyone.
So I want to get deeper into these topics, right? There are two directions that I want to go. I want to talk more about your journey with common law, your experiences with sovereignty and empowerment. But I quickly also just want to touch on the council tax again, because I remember doing my own research and coming across that council tax once upon a time actually was voluntary and not mandatory. Do you know anything about like when that changed, why that changed? And why in the beginning it was voluntary and now it's become mandatory?
The truth is, when it happened is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Whether it happened 20 years ago or 200 years ago, who did it is irrelevant. Who signed that into law is irrelevant. The only thing is, right now in this present moment, do you want to pay council tax? Ask yourself the question, yes or no. If, like me, you're happy to contribute some money to the bin collection, the sewage being taken away, I am not completely out of everything, because I understand the system of operation and I want to contribute because I understand the flow of money. I don't want to withhold all my money from the system, because the system has a lot of benefits. Where else on the planet? I've lived in India for years, and when I came back here, I saw the amazing convenience of people collecting my bins. It's so simple, But trust me, after years in India, you really appreciate someone to pick up your bin every Thursday. So I'm happy to pay. I'm happy to give my time and energy for someone to use their time and energy. It's not about us getting back all of our money and saying, that's it, I'm being a stingy git. It's about us understanding that we choose reasonably what we pay. And I pay £37.80 a month to council tax. I'm not in any band. I'm not in A, B, C, D, E, F. I don't do that because I want to choose how much I pay. And I don't want to pay £18.20 to the police commissioner of Dorset. I don't want to pay him. I think the government should pay him through another tax system. Let them do that. I don't pay income tax. I'm self-employed. I'm very lucky. I keep all my money. And I will choose when I give my money and what I get back for it. And it's not about keeping all of our money. So ask yourself the question, anyone watching this, how much are you willing to pay to contribute to the society? And be honest and be authentic with yourself, and don't be stingy and don't be cruel. Offer something that you feel in your heart is a remedy to what you get in return. Not just a direct debit of £137 a month religiously taken out of your bank by the government because they've told you to do it, but just ask yourself, how much are you willing to contribute to society authentically, and then offer them that.
I can already hear people saying, but why, Chris? Why do I have to pay to a corrupt system? Why should I pay? We can start creating our own system. I keep hearing about these cooperative communities popping up as well, for example. So I think this is a really good idea for the new paradigm that's coming in. But obviously, you're still paying to the same system, and there's obviously a lot of people within the common law and sovereignty community that they want to set up their own cooperative system.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm well for it. Yeah, and I have lived in communities all over the world, and I've lived out of a van, I've lived on land, I've lived in teepees in Thailand, I've lived in the forest, and all of those types of people are building beautiful and amazing systems of communities around the world, and they don't need to pay anything to anyone because they all contribute their time and energy to build things and make food and grow food. And that is a new paradigm on this planet, and I recommend anyone who feels in their heart that that's for them, go and find those communities, move to Portugal, move to France, move to Thailand and India, and go and remove yourself for a period of time to experience those things. I chose to come back into the West. I reinserted myself back into society after years of being away from it, because there's work to do, and I like seeing my family and friends, and I like having a gym, and I like going to the cinema, and I like going out for a meal, and you can't do those things if you live in the forest. And I made a decision, a conscious decision, to move back and live in a town where there is a council and where the police are and where the governments are and the courts are. That's just my journey. And I do more good work here, touching the hearts and minds of English people who have depression and anxiety and stress as a coach, teaching people about law and common law, philosophy, spiritual development. My calling is to be here in the thick of it. Otherwise, I'm just sitting on a rock in India meditating, and I'm not really helping anyone other than myself.
I love that, and I love how you put that. It's so powerful and poignant that you consciously chose to come back into the system. Yeah. We're gonna touch on your journey in a second, but I really just I want to talk about quickly birth certificates and how they're exchanged on the stock exchange, or they're traded, right? That's my love. Can you give us more of an insight into that? Can you explain more about what does that mean? Like, what does it mean that we've been turned into corporations? Why are we being traded? Why is our birth certificate being traded?
Because we're cargo. We're slaves. The slave trade never ended. The slave trade never ended. It just got more sophisticated, way more sophisticated. And in 1666, around about the time of the Great Fire of London, they set up trust accounts in our name. And because we're unconscious, because we're spiritually unconscious beings, and we don't know that we are sovereign. And they, the people who know this, decided in a meeting at some point that they were going to do this because they own us. They are our slave masters. And they created these birth certificates because the cargo of a ship births in a dock, just like we give birth with a doctor. And they make us sign cargo certificates as the mother births the cargo, and then the dock master takes the cargo, the baby, and officiates it for the government, registers it to the government. And that's all it is. Our mothers and our fathers unknowingly give us away to the government and enter us into the trust account, which then we are members of the society, the pyramid. So then we follow the rules and regulations, and we have a point system against us. So if you do really well at school and you end up in a higher tax bracket, you're worth more to the government because you're paying more tax. So if you're working class or lower class or middle class or upper middle class or whatever class you're in, you have more value depending on how much money, what are you contributing to society. So that bond, that birth certificate can be floated on the stock market because you are an investment, essentially. And they sell our time and energy. They trade our time and energy, basically. We're slaves. We're basically slaves. And, well, I'm not, but humanity as a whole unknowingly was born into slavery. And my job is to slap everyone to say, wake up, like, stop it. And this is the thing about consciousness or unconsciousness, is you cannot convince someone to wake up. You cannot say, hey, you need to wake up. Wake up, unconscious person. Hey, you need to wake up. It's impossible. The only way to wake someone up is to be an inspiration. The only way, inspiration, the inner spirit, to be for me to act and exude my inner spirit, for me to inspire people to do it, to act it, to speak it, to express it, to become it. Once I am it, then people will say, how is he doing that? And then you lead the people out of unconsciousness. But to just stand there and say, you're unconscious, you need to wake up, it doesn't work. It doesn't.
You have to lead by example.
You have to lead by example. And I'm still on my journey. This is still the beginning. I'm only 38 years old. I've only been on this journey for 8 years. I've still got another 40 years or 50 years of this crazy journey as a human man. And I will just continue chipping away at the journey, chipping away, learning more, inspiring more people, reaching more people using social media, interviewing on podcasts, sharing the knowledge over and over and over and over, older and older and older and older, and then I'll die. And if I can reach 1 million people or 10 million people while I'm alive, then that's what I'm here to do. And that's what I'm sole focused on while I'm here.
Amazing. So do we belong to the Vatican then?
Yes.
Okay. So we all belong to the Vatican?
Yes.
Okay.
VAT.
Say that again?
We pay VAT.
Oh, Vatican.
We're told it's the value added tax.
It's so incredible how everything is connected. Right, we're going to get into that, but I really want to get into your journey now. So just over 10 years ago, you got into common law, you started researching it. Since then, you've really been teaching it, you've been helping a lot of people. But I really want to talk about the moment that you decided to go to India and your experience in India. So you found the information of common law.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for you to then leave and go to India, and what happened during your time there?
When you study law, you realize that laws are derived from lots of different laws. So we have acts and stature law, like the Road Traffic Act and all this stuff. These are like very, very simple rules and regulations of a society. You move into like natural law, where you understand that the natural world is governed by laws as well. So there are the laws of physics, right? The laws of chemistry. You have all of these fundamental laws of nature, which then I went from like studying parking tickets into council tax into like studying trust law, and then from trust law, equity law. And then I was like, the laws are getting heavier and more. And then I was like, the laws of nature. Oh yeah, that's cool. And then in my spare time, I was reading about the laws of nature. Then it moved into Canonian law, the canon law. And canon law is the law of the Vatican. The religious laws, which govern our society as well. And then you have the Hermetic principles, which is the principle of vibration, rhythm, polarity, gender, all of these things that manifest in the universe that can never be changed. These are the fundamental laws of the universe, the building blocks of the universe. And I didn't know that I was a philosopher when I was studying parking tickets. I was like, oh yeah, parking tickets are great. And as I studied over the years, I realized that the parking tickets meant nothing. I was studying the Hermetic principles, and then I was like, well, who cares about the Road Traffic Act? Who cares about the Road Traffic Act? Let's talk about the principle of rhythm, that everything in the universe is in a state of rhythm. And that was way more interesting to me. So my philosophical inquiry led me to be like, right, I'm out of here, because I kept getting arrested. I basically kept getting arrested over and over again. I got arrested 27 times because I just wanted to see what would happen if I just took the license plates off my car and got rid of my driver's license. And I just became a pain in the ass, basically, for the government. Because
before or after India, sorry?
Before India.
Oh, wow. Okay, go on.
And then my parents thought I was losing the plot. They were like, you're a lunatic. So then that was it. You kind of exhaust yourself. I was getting tired of being arrested. So I said, what's next for me? And I just met this beautiful woman, amazing woman. And she was going traveling. And I said, okay, I'm going to go. So I sold my house and I left. And that was the beginning of that journey. And when you extract yourself from the system and you go, then you're just free. You're in India and you're walking around with a bag on your back. The beard gets longer and longer and longer, and you're not thinking about common law. You're not thinking about governments or queens or anyone. You've got nothing to consider other than what you're going to eat and where you're going to sleep for years. And it allows your mind to relax because you're not doing anything. You're not having to do anything. And instead of being a human doing, you become a human being again. And because in society, we're having to do and do and do and do and pay and do and do. And they've turned us into human doings. And in India, I had the opportunity to become a human being. I got to just sit and be. And that was pretty much how the soul, or the true essence of a being, can actually be felt and can actually be heard. The intuition is always speaking to us. Our intuition, our higher selves are always speaking to us all the time. But we're too busy doing stuff. We're too busy watching television, talking to friends, meeting for a beer, planning a meeting, going to the gym, we're so busy outwardly focused in physical reality that the higher self is silenced. So society is very detrimental for spiritual development. And you need to step outside of that. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a spiritual awakening while living in London. Like, you can still have the most incredibly peaceful, loving, intimate, beautiful, soul-searching experience in a city center. But you will have to be very aware of what you put into your eyes, nose, ears, nose, and mouth, and who you're spending time with. I mean, I'm still practicing things here, kind of, but it's way more difficult in a society, way more difficult. There's so many distractions here. And India was the opportunity for me to just completely relax and go within and allow all those layers of emotion, all those layers of suppressed anger, frustration, bitterness, shame, guilt, terror, fear, all of the stuff that existed and stored in my subconscious mind came up over and over and over and over again. And I cried and I purged and I screamed and I cried and I purged and I screamed for years and years and years and years. And eventually it got slower and slower. And then there was another one. And then there's another one. And now I'm a year and I haven't had a purge and I feel great. So, yeah.
Wow. What an amazing story. So how long were you in India for?
First time I was there for 6 months and I came home, and then I went back for 18 months.
Amazing. So when you came back after 18 months, bearing in mind that you already had this awareness of sovereignty and common law,
yeah,
what was it like integrating back into society once you came back from India?
So when I left, I was really angry. I didn't know at the time that all of my shenanigans and all of my challenging the government and all of my fighting the police and all of the council letters was done out of passive aggressiveness, tension, anger, frustration at the government. And that frustration at the government wasn't even frustration at the government, it was frustration at my parents. That's the truth. The honest truth is that it's frustration at your parents. Everything resorts down to your parents. Everything. Every feeling, every piece of shame, every piece of guilt, every fear, it's your parents. And this angst, this anger, this frustration that exists within humanity can be addressed by addressing it. And when I came back after India, I didn't care. I didn't care about the integration process. Was hard because England is a very boring place compared to India. India is the most active, vibrant energy that you could possibly ever experience. It is 24/7, people eating in the street, music, people praying, devotional singers, Hare Krishnas. It's just 24 hours, like energy, 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 energy. And then I came back to my hometown in England and it was dead. 5 o'clock, all the shops are closed. Everyone's in their home watching X Factor or some bullshit television show. I'm walking around town on my own at 7:30 in the evening. There's not one single person here. And it's like November when I got back, and I'm like, it's like being in a Chernobyl or something, or some kind of like deserted town. And that is the culture shock. The culture shock is nothing happens here.
That's so interesting. I want to touch more on how you pushed the boundaries. So let's go back again to when you came across common law information, you started researching it, you started studying it, then you started applying it, and you were like really pushing the boundaries. I want you to go deeper into explaining what your experiences were. What did you do to push those boundaries? And what were your experiences with the police?
For me and my friend were studying common law together. He actually helped me wake up. He was convincing me at the beginning about the parking ticket, and I was like, no, I'll just pay it. But then I was like, I don't want to pay it. And he was like, don't pay it. And he was the one that kind of edged me towards studying it. Thank you, Johnny. So then what happened is it wasn't enough for me to just know it intellectually. I have always been the kind of, I know it, I read a book or I read a website or I read a leaflet. Knowing it intellectually is the first step. I usually describe it like this. This is knowing it intellectually. Also, we could say learning it, knowing it, realizing it, embodying it, and then doing it. There's like a process. And most people just learn it and they're just happy to learn it. You know, I've just learned this piece of information. How wonderful that I know this piece of information. But unless you're willing to like know it deeper and have a deeper contemplation on that knowing, then you have the realization of like, whoa, that thing that I just learned is actually real. It's a real thing. It's not just a piece of knowledge that I've learned. It's real and I can do something about it. Then's the next step, which is doing it. And I've never had a problem with that. I like a challenge. I like confrontation. I'm not afraid of seeing what happens out of curiosity. It was more like a curiosity. Like it may be if I take the license plates off my car and throw my driver's license away, I'll be arrested a bunch of times and then I'll have to do something about it. I'll have to rewrite the letters. So I just threw myself in the deep end. And I went through that process for over 2.5, 3 years, 30 odd arrests, warrants out for my arrest, police looking for me, coming to my house, bailiffs, courts, councils, letter writing after letter writing. At the beginning, when I wrote the letters, they were terrible and I had no clue what I was doing. And I would just get arrested and I would just get arrested and they would come and get me and they would take me to court and I'd get released and I'd get arrested and this went backwards and forwards for about a year. And then the spiritual journey began. My letter writing improved, my knowledge improved, my wisdom improved, my experiences improved. And the police activity got less and less and less. The courts contacted me less and less and less. The bailiffs stopped coming because my letter writing got amazing. Like, you're not just saying, hey, I'm sovereign, leave me alone. You're saying, who do you think you're talking to? And if you continue, I'll have you in court. And then the tables turn. You're not just like some peasant hoping that the government will go away. You're standing saying, how dare you? How dare you contact me? And then they're like, all right. So you bring yourself up to the level of them. You look them in the eye. You're not that you're not looking down on them because you have to respect. This is why the Prime Minister always says, the right honorable gentleman, even though he's arguing with the person. Because in law, you have to remain in honor. It's not F off, I'm not going to do it, because they will just arrest you and take you to court. You have to have decorum, you have to have honor, you have to have respect. Because if you don't develop those qualities within yourself, you're a peasant in their eyes.
That takes a lot of confidence though, right? Because obviously, like I said, most people are used to following, and most of society are actually used to hierarchies. So it does take a level of confidence. Like the way you're explaining it, you're very confident with it.
Yeah, but that's the spiritual journey. The spiritual journey is, I haven't been this way. 10 years ago, I was a shivering mess. I was a mess. I would have just done as I was, just rolled over and done as I was told, and I was scared of everyone. And then I had an epiphany. My epiphany was in London.
Did you go through the fearful process? Like, I just want to, I'm going to touch back on your epiphany, but like, did you feel fear when you started on your journey of the common law and sovereignty journey?
Um, did I feel fear? Yes, I'd have to be honest. At the beginning, it's really hard to explain because yeah, I was scared, but I didn't care.
Yeah, you had enough,
I
basically.
just had enough. Like enough was enough. Like I think it was just like the pressure of life, the marriage, the job, the money, the system, everything. I just find it was like a popcorn kernel popping, and it was just unraveling after that. And I was literally just following my heart after that. I realized that because the government in this country are actually really, there's an order to things in this country. We're very blessed in England because there is a constitution, there is a Magna Carta. The police are great people. The police, every time I've had an interaction with the police, they've been respectful straight away. Sir, you're under arrest. They've never kicked or shoved me more other than when I've kicked and shoved them, and they've kicked and shoved me back. You know, they're just doing a job. They're in an office. They're officers. They're just working in an office, following orders. And they've got mortgages and babies, and they've got families, and they go to barbecues, and they're just normal people. So one thing we're really blessed with in England is at least the police are regular people. It's not like Africa where the police have batons and they'll just take you into the back of a bush and beat you up. Here, the police follow certain policies and policies in order to keep their job. And if they step outside the jurisdiction of their job, they'll be fired. And the police know that. So we are blessed in England because we have a structure. So because I knew that, I knew ultimately whatever I was doing, I could never be harmed. I could never be physically harmed by anything that I was doing. Even if I ended up in jail, I wouldn't be harmed. And I ultimately,
Because of how you were responding though, right? I want to
yeah,
make that clear because there are people that do get harmed in the custody of police.
for sure. Yeah, and there are bad policemen and there are terrible policemen and there are criminals and there are people everywhere. But I never encountered them ever. And towards the middle of the arrests, I started forming good relationships with the police because I was on the spiritual journey. I was getting a lot of anger, and the whole system, the whole common law thing was making more sense to me, and I got wise to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on a second. Okay, cool. So when a policeman came to arrest me, I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm not just let's do it. I wouldn't say anything. They just arrest me, put me in the car, just sit in the car, and I'd be like, hey guys, what have you been doing today? How was your day? And they're like, yeah,
I really want to touch more on the arrest as well, but can we go back to your epiphany? Sorry, so I didn't mean to interrupt that section. What was the epiphany that you had in London?
Yeah, the epiphany was it was raining and my shirt was going to get wet. It sounds really stupid and simple, but I was cycling to work in London. I was cycling through and it started raining, and that was the end of my old life, pretty much. It was the final straw that broke the camel's back. And the epiphany was, I'm doing the wrong thing in the wrong city with the wrong people, and the direction of my life, I'm going in the wrong direction. And I was like, I don't know what direction I have to go in now, but this one I'm stopping. So I did a 180-degree turn. I left my job, my wife, my London, and I moved down to Dorset. And I had no clue what was happening to me. I didn't even know why I was doing it. I just knew I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
That was the epiphany. And then after that, I was just following my heart. So taking the license plates off my car and throwing my driver's license away was just something my heart was telling me to do.
That's so powerful because most people actually don't know how to listen to their heart or follow their heart. It reminds me of that book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I've read it like 3 times, and it's always about getting back into the heart. Yeah. But I really just want to also say that most people are very fearful of getting arrested, encountering the police, experiencing bailiffs at the door. This is the biggest one that I hear when I talk about my journey as well with sovereignty and common law is but I don't want the bailiffs coming to the door. So I mean, how do you deal, like how would you advise or suggest or support someone or guide someone on kind of just releasing that fear around being arrested or encountering the police, because as well, you have done a lot of research, you know the language very well, you know what to do, and you know how to talk to them. I'm going to be very honest, I don't know if I would be confident enough to be able to say the right thing or do the right thing, or not say certain things if I encountered the police. So my thing is just kind of like, I just avoid as much as I can,
Yeah,
because I don't feel like I have the right knowledge, and I think having the right knowledge is what gives you the confidence, right? Because if you didn't have the knowledge that you have, yeah, would you have pushed the boundary as much as you had?
Okay, well, what is knowledge?
Information.
But what's the famous quote? Knowledge is
Power. Yeah.
So I started waking up and I became addicted to reading.
Okay.
And I digested hundreds and hundreds of books. And what did I gather? Power. Because that's all it is. Anyone who has fear around bailiffs or police or anything what to say, they haven't read any books. They just haven't studied. They haven't taken the time to study the common law. Like that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach. I'm here to inspire other people to do the same. And ultimately, stop watching television. Stop watching Netflix. Stop watching crappy entertainment. You're just wasting your life. You're just literally entertaining yourself into your grave. So anyone that says, "Oh, I'm scared of the police. I'm scared of the bailiffs," well, how much television do you watch every week? Like, you know, where are you spending your attention? The most valuable two things we have while we're alive is the time, which I mentioned earlier, and our attention. Where we place our attention is our value.
Yeah.
The word entertainment, enter, to attain the mind, meant, the mental space. To entertain someone is to go into and take their mind. So entertainment is literally taking your attention away from reality. So anyone who watches anything that is entertaining them, they are pulling themselves away from reality. This is why it sounds really boring, but I'm very careful about what I watch, when I watch it, and how I watch it. I have a laptop only, I open it, I choose the film I want to watch, and it will be very not violent, not aggressive, no explosions, no guns, no one killing anyone, because I don't want my attention to go on murder and stealing and debauchery and stuff like that, because we're manifesting beings. Whatever we put into our eyes becomes our reality. This is another thing. We're going to move into like reality creation, which I don't want to get into at this one because it's another topic.
Yeah. But I do want to touch on the event that you've got coming up in November. So you're going to be speaking at the Tabernacle on the 5th of November.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into a little bit more about what you'll be talking about there? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that might be watching this and thinking, well, where do I even start to begin researching? And also there's a lot of people that, one, get overwhelmed by these kind of things. A lot of people don't like the research or the reading of things, but I mean, this is why people like you exist, Chris, right? Because you teach this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So do you want to go into kind of like what you're going to be talking about on the 5th of November? And it's a day seminar, right?
Yeah, it's a day seminar. Doors open at 10 o'clock. I'll go on the stage at 11 o'clock until about 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm going to split it into 3 30-minute chunks. There's going to be 30 minutes on common law, explaining the common law system and the maritime system, so everyone has a broader and a philosophical understanding of the common law. I'm going to do it in plain English. I'm not going to use any complicated. I'm going to just make it super simple and answer the questions at the end. The second 30 minutes is going to be sovereignty, which is a legal word for spirituality. I'm going to be talking about why the law was impressed upon us because of our spiritual unconsciousness and what we can do. And then the last one is about empowerment. I'm just going to step into my inspirational speaker pants and give everyone a little kick up the bum. So when they leave, they feel power. They feel like they can achieve and do whatever is right for them. I don't want anyone to do what I've done. I'm not trying to convince anyone to do anything that I've done. I want everyone to do what's right for them and what's right for their heart and their path, because every single being on this planet has their own trajectory, their own purpose, their own meaning to experience. And I am becoming a public speaker, I'm becoming a teacher, an educator, a philosopher. And that's my journey. Some people might become healers. Some people might become philosophers, writers, filmmakers, musicians. Some people might end up building beautiful structures. Some people might write the best poems in the world. Some people might end up becoming freedom fighters and taking down the government with swords. Who knows what the future holds for anyone? But my job is to remind everyone that you have a purpose, you have a reason to be here, and only you can find out what that is. So I'm going to be wrapping up an hour-and-a-half talk. I could talk on the subject for 10 hours, but I'm going to try and condense it down to 2 hours with a Q&A at the end. Then we're going to break for lunch. Lunch is provided in the ticket price, which is amazing. The Tabernacle is just an amazing looking venue. I can't wait to be there. And then afterwards, we're going to have tea, there's going to be juice, there's going to be vendors there. I'm going to show people some documentation. So I'm going to have a printer available so we can print off some documents, maybe some templates, talk about conditional acceptances, notices, how to write the documents at the end. We're going to talk about paperwork, wording, language, just so everyone has a better understanding, because the pen is your sword, the paper is your shield, and the trust is your castle. And if you can understand how to write a document and you're in a trust, you are one step closer to protecting yourself. Even if you haven't realized your true sovereignty yet, and you haven't begun your spiritual journey yet, the paper, the pen, and the trust, everyone can do. You just have to have an understanding of how it operates and how to do it. So I'm going to finish off with trust law after lunch, and just so we can have, so people can leave feeling the power of that protection. And that's basically the summary of it. We should be wrapping it up around about 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock. And again, I'm open to any questions. If anyone has any questions, personal questions or any problems, I'll happily answer any questions on that day. So it's going to be
amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Be
I want to also touch about how I think this is a question that I get asked a lot, obviously, because Ascending Tribe is a global platform. So there's a lot of people from Europe and the US, and obviously I'm pretty sure they're not going to be coming over to London for the event, but obviously with you being online, like you've got a Telegram community as well. How does common law work within Europe? Like, is that a completely different system that is working over there? Like, what advice can you give us about that?
Yeah, Europe is a no-go area for me. France is a republic. It's a republic of France. It's nothing to do with the common law at all. They're a republic. They got to do as they're told. The government in Germany can just come in and take you out of your house and lock your house. I wouldn't live in Germany or France if you paid me £1 million.
What about Portugal?
Well, Portugal is actually a great country. They're actually very, very liberal, very relaxed. Taxes aren't too high. Drugs are available to people. They haven't got many drug laws. Like, they're a bit like the Netherlands, Sweden. There are some brilliant and amazing countries in Europe that you wouldn't want to practice the common law because you don't need to. They're not extracting the money out. Basically, the countries that I am focusing on is America, Canada, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. Now that makes up about 2.2 billion people. That's a lot of people to be under the Commonwealth. And a lot of Americans are like, they always say to me on TikTok, well, we're not part of the Commonwealth, we're an independent country. It's the same law system, it's the same legal system, identical to the Commonwealth. So, and I know something about America that perhaps you don't know, and you never left the Commonwealth, you just incorporated your own independent company name called the United States of America Corporation within the Commonwealth. You're just born into a corporation, which you call America, but the White House is owned by the royal family, the British royal family. So all governments formed and all rules and regulations passed in the White House are passed by the British monarchy. So you are part of the British institution.
So, without going off on a tangent, does that mean their presidents are selected by the royal family?
The royal family are even far down. The people who own America, look at it this way. This is so simple to put it this way. A president runs a company, right? You appoint presidents to run companies.
Yeah.
He's the president of a company.
That does make sense, yeah.
Yeah. So people are like, oh, we have a president. It proves that you live in a company, you live in a corporation.
Because so are all countries corporations?
Yes.
Wow, okay. That does make sense, because I don't really believe in the whole border thing. We're all human beings living on the same
rock.
Rock. Yes, that's a
A
good.
piece of rock.
Yeah,
It's
literally.
only the human mind that's divided all the lines up and named them something.
Yeah, like Mother Earth didn't say, "Oh, let me split myself into how many pieces."
No, it's just a piece of rock. We're floating for a tiny grain of sand in the vast void of space. It's only our insanity where we think, well, I'm going to divide this piece of rock with a line, and you can call that Canada. I'm going to call this America.
Yeah.
That's actually insanity. It's tribalism at its highest level of insanity. And this is what I'm on this planet to do, to remind everyone that all of this is man-made. All of this is man-made. It came out of the human mind. It's all of it is an imagined reality. Laws, rules, regulations, words, spells, magic, it's all part of the imagination. It's all, we're living in someone else's dream reality.
That makes complete sense. I want to touch on straw man as well. How does straw man relate to common law?
Well, the straw man is the fake man, the pretend, the dead entity. The straw man is the dead man. It's that you're dead, you're spiritually dead.
So when we are given a birth certificate, for example, they, and who's they as well? So someone deems us as dead. Someone deemed us as a dead entity on our birth certificate. We are no longer a living being. We then become a corporation, right?
A corpse, a corporation, a dead person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so our straw man is my name, basically.
Yeah.
Our name is the straw man.
Yeah, basically, it's like it's all in block capitals, because on tombstones in the olden days, all tombstones are in block capitals because it's your corporation, it's your corpse, it's your dead name. So they give you a block capital name because you're spiritually unconscious, you're dead, you're not alive, you're not living your free expression of the one infinite creator, you're dumbed down, you're unconscious. So they deem you as dead, so they give you a corporation name and they hand it to you. And then with this piece of paper, you just walk around, dragging your body around, going to jobs, saying that you're this. It's basically a death certificate.
So I know the answer to this, but I know there's going to be a lot of people like watching this and thinking, so how do I reclaim my birth certificate? How do I make myself a living person? How do I get my birth certificate back? How do I cancel my birth certificate? Do you know the answer to that?
No, I have no clue, because I was actually having a chat on a Zoom call years ago with this guy, and he called me out on it. And I said, but why would I do that? Why would I claim it back? What am I claiming back? I'm claiming back my life now by saying I'm alive. I don't need to go to an office, their office, and sign their pieces of paper to tell them that I'm alive. I'm telling you I'm alive, and that's final.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Don't contact me. I'm not interested in getting all the money back and going into my trust account and getting all the money, and because I'm not driven by money.
Yeah. So this is another thing that a lot of people aren't aware of, that we've got our own individual trust accounts from the moment we're born.
That's right.
And we're given certain land. Now, is this a, when I say global, I'm talking about the Commonwealth, Australia, America, or is that just a UK thing that happens?
I'm not sure. I know that, look at it this way, you're sovereign, right? And you live on a planet. You were born in this universe and you're standing on this earth. You have as much right to this land as everyone. You have as much right to live on a piece of land and build a house and grow vegetables than anyone else. And it shouldn't involve money. It shouldn't involve ownership or deeds of title. It shouldn't involve any paperwork at all. It is just your God-given right to live somewhere and to grow food, because you need to have shelter, and the hierarchy of needs. You need shelter and you need food. This is your right as an individual. And a government over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and people and ownerships and land ownerships and property ownerships and barons and lords and landlords have just swept up all the land. They've written their names on them. They've signed documents with the government, and now they own everything. And us, the people that were born in the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s or whatever, we're working class people, we're just regular human beings. We're born, and land is hundreds of thousands of pounds, and we'd have to get mortgages, and there is possible, but I'm not interested. I'm not driven by money.
Okay.
I want to share. I need 2 pairs of pants, 1 pair of underpants, 1 pair of t-shirts, a shirt. I need a guitar. I need to breathe. I need to drink water. I need to eat, and I need somewhere to sleep. If I can get through 80 years having a frugal Buddhist existence of very, very shanty life, where I don't over accumulate too much money and I don't need to over accumulate too much property. I want to live a very frugal life, because do we even own it anyway? We're all going to die.
Yeah.
Like,
So society is essentially built on greed and materialism and consumerism.
well, capitalism is a mental disease.
Mm.
Capitalism is to capitalize, is to dominate, is to own, is to have. And that is just ego bullshit. You don't have anything. The whole purpose of the soul is to share, is to give, is to contribute, is to be charitable, is to donate. The soul just wants to give itself. It wants to express itself. It wants to give. It doesn't want to own, doesn't want to have dominion over anything. That's just ego. And anyone who's driven by property or money or anything, what are you accumulating it for? Just to give it to your kids when you die? So you can
sorry, go on.
So you can give your kids a better life. And I completely understand that people want to have a house and a car and a home and work really hard, so that when they die, their children don't have to do that. And that's honorable and that's respectful. I haven't got to the point yet where I've had children, so I've got no reason to do that. I'm just still living my best life, you know.
Yeah, I understand, but we also do live in a realm that we can manipulate energy and manifest material things how we want. You know, there's a lot of like creativity. For me, for example, the only thing that I would love more than anything in life is to have land and build my little shipping container house. But that's just like my vision. That's like my dream. Like, I just want to, and I would rather have more land than more house. I'm happy living in a small, I don't need like a massive mansion or a massive house. I'd rather have more land to like walk around and have animals and shelter people if people need to come, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not saying I want to build a community at this stage. What was the other thing I was going to go into? There was another point that I was going to go into. Yeah, so we're currently, I know you don't watch the news. And I know that you're not really into like the mainstream narratives, but obviously I do have to touch on the fact that right now there is a mainstream narrative going around of the cost of living crisis. So for people who don't know about common law, I know we've touched a lot on this already. They don't know about common law. They don't know about sovereignty. They don't know that they actually have a choice to pay council tax. They have a choice of what they want to pay, because obviously they're free beings, right? So they therefore have a choice. So how would you advise or guide or help or assist those who are really experiencing that detriment of the narrative that we're going through of the cost of living crisis? Because we could, like, you know, common law and sovereignty can really, really help a lot of those people.
Again, it's the same with the council tax. Just pay what you're happy to pay and don't pay any more than that. Like, if
it's easy to say that though, because a lot of people are like in fear. For example, if you said that to my parents, they're not going to go, okay, Chris, you're right. Like, let me just pay like £1 a month or whatever, because they're going to, in their head, they're going to say, well, I'm just going to get into debt and I have to pay, and then I'm going to have bailiffs round. So it's that whole like fear-based conditioned mentality, which I love my parents to death, but I'm just being honest, like, you saying that is not then going to make them go, okay, you're right.
Well, then yeah, so what you're really asking me, you're not asking me about the cost of living crisis at all. You're asking about how people get rid of fear. Because the truth is, the cost of living crisis, the answer is pay whatever you want. That's the truth. That is the direct answer. Pay what you're happy to pay and don't budge.
Right, let's go into resolving the conditioned mind then, right? So we've been conditioned over years, right? A lot of us are in fear. Most people live their life in fear. Society is built on fear. How do we release these conditions? Like, okay, right, we need knowledge. Okay, some people need to start researching common law, but there's people that don't want to do that, or they're not aware of that, or so a lot of people might not even come across this podcast.
Yeah,
how can we release the conditioned mind?
Your mind is a recording device. It's recorded your entire history. And depending also, it's not just a lot of the fears that we have in our psychophysical organism, in our emotional body and in our mind, aren't even our own. They're projections of our own parents projecting their bullshit fears onto us. And we absorb them at an early age thinking, oh, we should be afraid of that. For instance, my ex was afraid of dogs. She was terrified of dogs. Simple explanation. She walked down the road and every time my mum saw a dog, she went, get away from the dog, get away from the dog. oh, get away, her whole life. And then she's 37, and when she's a dog, she's like, oh, there's a dog. A prime example of why she's not even her own fear, it's a mum's fear. So fear is passed on generation after generation, and that fear of dogs may have been given to her by grandparents and her grandparents, and it's just fear that's passed down. And the buck stopped with me, basically. I decided, no more. I'm fed up. If I keep going this way, I'm going to get some kind of disease. My body will manifest some kind of disease. I'm going to die, because the body manifests disease through dissonance, dis-ease, dissonance. It's so simple. So if you want to live a perfectly healthy and vibrant life, get rid of the dissonance, the pain, the suffering. And that can only be done by the individual. The individual, no one can do it for you. You can go to a therapist, you can get healing, you can go to crystal, you can have a massage, you can do all these things. But the truth is, sitting for periods of time, studying yourself, asking yourself, what am I afraid of? What do I believe? What do I believe? What are my beliefs? Why do I believe them? Where did the beliefs come from? How old was I when I formed this belief? Asking these types of self-inquiry questions is excavating the mind, and auto-suggestion, which is suggesting a new thing for the mind. So if you feel fear about bailiffs, as an example, ask yourself, why do you fear bailiffs? What are you actually fearing when you fear bailiffs? You fear them coming into your home and taking your television? So you're afraid of someone taking your television. You're afraid of someone coming into your house and taking your car from you. So you're afraid of losing your car. Why are you afraid of losing your car? Is losing your car harming you in some way? Is it causing you physical pain? No, it's just a car. So what is it? It's your attachment to the car. You have an attachment to the car, and then you're scared that the bailiff's going to take it away and you'll lose the thing that you're attached to. So what part of you is attached to the car? What is it that's attached to the car? Is your hand physically attached to the car? No. So what is it that's attached to the car?
I love that. It's attachment. That's literally the answer.
This is why I don't want to own anything while I'm here, because there's no point. I just want to have the best time of my life. I want to have food and drink and friends and family, and and have somewhere safe and this attachment that we have to have it. And this is just, again, getting into spiritual development, which is egoic. The ego has attachments, basically. And part of the Buddhist philosophy is non-attachment. I can love someone fully. I can love my partner, care for them, provide for them, protect them, love them, but I have no attachment. Which means if they walk out the door, I'll feel sad, but I won't suffer. I'll miss them, but I won't suffer. Because that's the end. It's a rational way of thinking. It's non-attachment. And that is a very, very challenging way of doing it, but that is non-attachment. So we actually fear losing our possessions because our possessions give us a sense of identity. And the ego loves identity. So when you buy that new Mercedes car that costs you lots of money, you are someone in that car. Look at me and my Mercedes. I drive a Mercedes. So if the bailiff come and take that identity away from you, your ego loses a sense of identity. So the fear is you're losing a sense of identity. The bailiffs are losing a sense of identity. So this is how they get you, because we're unconscious. You're an unconscious being and you have an ego. So the bailiffs are terrifying. Oh, terrifying bailiffs. They might come and take away your identity. And
this is what I love about your physical, like your philosophical wisdom. Like, I just, every time I speak to you, like my mind just feels like it's expanding, but also remember at the same time. Like you help me remember. I want to also just say, because I know that I'm just bearing in mind of the time and that we do need to kind of finish up soon, but like with common law, from my personal experience as well, it's been a very, very individual journey. Like my journey has not been the same as yours. And, we're in a couple of mutual groups together with a lot of other people who are also on this path, and every one of their journeys is very individual to them. So what has worked for you hasn't worked for me, and I guess at the same time it is because of like the inward journey that we're on. We're on very individual, personal, spiritual paths as well, and that kind of reflects and projects onto the sovereignty path as well that we walk. So yes, whilst the information that you've given me has really helped me, and I'm sure a lot of the template documents that you're going to be providing at the event at the Tabernacle is going to be very, very helpful for people. I think it's worthy to note for people who are not on the path yet and want to start taking this path or walking the path, that it's going to be very, very individual to them.
Yeah. This is what, as an educator, I'm trying to get across that they're not meant to be doing anything anyone else is meant to be doing. Every soul has its own reason to be here, its own lessons to learn, and every soul is different. I chose my parents so I could look like this and go to a military boarding school and have all of the pain and suffering that I went through as a child, so that I would crawl my way out of it and be the strong character that I am today. You could say that trauma or bad experiences is a slingshot developing you into a higher level. People who live very safe lives and don't push their way into confrontation don't have a lot of growth. Confrontation is growth. You can't polish a mirror without friction, you know, like really simple stuff. You can't polish anything without rubbing yourself against it. So there has to be some kind of defiance, or you know, like there has to be some kind of struggle in order to grow. So I say to people, everyone's on their own path. I can only inspire people to go on their own path. Don't do anything I've done. Don't do anything I've done. Just study, read books, listen to audiobooks. If you don't like reading, go on to YouTube and listen to the billions and billions of audiobooks that exist on a billions of subjects. And it's free. It's like a free university in your phone. I had a realization 10 years ago that I don't need to go to university. I don't need to go to study some government authority sorted out, these are the books you're going to read for the next 5 years, and here's $100,000 bill. You have a phone. You have a telephone. Don't go to university unless you want to be a brain surgeon or you want to do something that's technically advanced. You can't learn brain surgery through YouTube. But if you want to become a philosopher or an artist or anything that involves growth, knowledge, expansion, healing, anything, you don't need to study it. Just go on the internet and dedicate a period of your life, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and just focus on those things. You will become profoundly intelligent at whatever it is that you want to learn. And it just takes an audiobook a day, 2 hours a day. Dedicate yourself an hour before you go to bed, an hour when you wake up in the morning, an hour before you go to bed, an hour before you wake up in the morning, an hour before you go to bed. Over and over again, day after day. The day is going to pass anyway. The time is going to pass anyway. The years are going to pass anyway. The months are going to pass anyway. Just keep plugging yourself into the knowledge that makes your heart happy, and you will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And it is inevitable that you will become great.
And also, like, freedom, the freedom path, common law, sovereignty, it doesn't need to be a difficult path as well, because there are like thousands of people out there currently on this path. There's so much support out there. It doesn't need to be how it used to be.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with everyone who's watching this. I'm a bit of a loner. Philosophers generally and scholars spend a lot of time alone. I spend a lot of time alone. I have friends. I have beautiful friends around the world, and I talk to them whenever I can. But I spend a lot of time alone. I don't have a massive network of friends. I don't have a huge network of business associates or anything. I love spending time alone, and I love reading books. I generally love it. Like Daniel Day-Lewis, the actor, he acts for a living. And then when he's not acting, he's at home with his wife doing nothing. He just potters around the garden, reads the newspaper, has a tea. He says he's the same. He doesn't have many friends. He doesn't have many associates. They call him when he wants to make a film. He goes to make a film, and then he goes back to his house in Ireland, and he does nothing. He just sits, because he's a very balanced individual. And I'm not called to join communities. I've been in. I feel very happy being in my own space, growing and developing my soul, because ultimately the way you know yourself is by spending time alone. That's how you know yourself, because you know yourself. And then when you go into friendship groups, you see, this is a good way of looking at it. Whatever's triggering you is the root. So anyone that's watching this has been triggered by me and what I've been saying, or you've disagreed with something, that's totally fine. It's totally normal, organic. But ask yourself the question, what is it in me that is triggered by Chris? Because that is the path you have to take. Draw your attention to the vibration of being triggered and go into it. Because once you resolve that trigger, you have grown in some way.
Yeah.
And that is, whenever I'm seeing a girl at the moment, whenever she triggers me, I go and spend half an hour asking myself, why have I been triggered by this person? What is it in me that is upset or frustrated in some way?
That's so beautiful. And then you grow.
Yeah, and then you grow through it. So the next time she does it, I'm like, eh.
You know what it is as well.
And it's usually something to do with her. It's always something to do with my mum or my dad.
Yeah.
That's what I said earlier. It's always your mum and dad.
Yeah.
It's something that happened between 0 to 5, 0 to 7, maybe. And it's something internally. And the path is unfolding. I'm 8 years into another 50 years on this planet, hopefully, touch wood. And yeah, let's see what the future holds. I'm only 38 now. If I keep doing this and I keep speaking and public speaking and I keep doing events, by the age of 58, in 20 years, who knows what will be possible for me? Who knows what social media will look like then?
Yeah. Who knows what the world will look like at that point?
Who knows what the world will look like? But I'm driven. My soul is driving me to be an educator, because while I'm teaching, while I'm in a free flow state, my soul is generally happy.
Yeah.
When I was on stage a couple of months ago doing a public speaking gig, I was vibrating. My whole being was channeling energy, and I could feel my fingertips tingling while I was talking. And I thought, whatever this is, I'm meant to be speaking. I'm meant to be teaching. I'm meant to be educating. I'm meant to be inspiring people. And I just have to keep heading in that direction, 1 week at a month, 1 year at
I love that. I'm meant to be supporting the people that teach.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Because I love learning, I love expanding, I love growing, and I love evolving. So
yeah, and there's lots of ego traps on the spiritual journey. You get stuck in these little whirlpools of ego bullshit, which is like, you get stuck in these, oh, who am I? What is this experience? Do I even exist? Is there any point of doing this? If I don't really exist and this is just a holographic projection, then why am I even bothering? And then you get impulses to go and do it. You get these passion impulses. You have to do it. That's why you came here. You came here to do this. Like, oh yeah, I did come here to do this. Right, okay, I remembered again.
Remembering,
yeah.
Chris, thank you so much. Like, I am so grateful for your time. You always just expand my mind. You always help me to remember, which then brings me back into alignment, back into center, back into balance. So I'm super grateful for you, your wisdom, your knowledge, your philosophy, and the way you think and perceive the world. I'm grateful for your experiences and your time. So you have a Telegram group, which supports people on the path of common law and sovereignty. You offer advice, you offer updates on there. How can people find that group? And also, you are quite big on TikTok. You offer a lot of information via videos on TikTok. So how can people find you on those platforms?
Yeah, so Telegram, it's common_truth, capital C, capital T. One of them is a group where you can contribute, and one of them is just a group where I just add information. It's like almost like a page where I just add links and stuff like that. And on TikTok, I'm Chris_Edward_life. I couldn't quite decide whether I was a musician or a philosopher or a teacher, so I just said life, because it's about masculinity, it's about divinity, it's about spirituality, it's about law, it's about anything that comes through, it goes into TikTok. And sometimes it get 1 view and sometimes it gets 700,000 views. It depends on what's trending at the time and what's popular. So come and join me on TikTok, because it's a lot of fun on that.
Amazing. And you've also got the link up there to purchase a ticket for the Tabernacle on the 5th of November, right? Yeah. And you're posting it in the Telegram group, and I think people can reach you via email, right? Or am I incorrect with that?
No, not by email.
Okay.
I haven't got any emails anywhere. I basically receive private messages on TikTok, private messages on Instagram, private Telegram. But Telegram's great because I get loads of private people. They find me on the Telegram group and then they send me a private message by their own account.
Okay.
They're not contacting me through Common Truth. They're contacting me directly from their phones to my phone. And I've got I do apologize to anyone. There's about 250 unopened messages on there at the moment. Because I don't have the time or the capacity to answer everyone. So,
well, the event is on Eventbrite, so I think they can just type in common law and it should just come up. Or Chris Edwards, they can type in your name, that will come up.
Yep.
In
Yeah. Come on.
right.
Yeah. Chris Edward, and yeah, go onto Eventbrite, just type in common law or Chris Edward or sovereignty or empowerment, any of those words, and the event will come up, and get your tickets. And hopefully we'll see you on the 5th.
Yeah, and I believe you've got early bird tickets happening until the 5th of October. So yeah, amazing. So get your tickets, guys. If you want to learn about common law, if you want to see Chris Edward live, we've got the live music happening there as well, isn't there? Yeah, so come along, and yeah, hopefully meet you guys there. So thank you so much, Chris. So grateful to you, your time.
Alex, thank you. Thank you. It's a wonderful, it's been wonderful working with you, and just, you're so easy to collaborate with, and you don't mind moving the goalposts and just being flexible on timings, and we're just slowly learning this process together, which I really, really appreciate. You're humble in it, like me, which is like, we have never done this before. We're edging our way into business, into public speaking, into events, and I have to remind myself not to give myself a hard time, that we're not achieving Tony Robbins style marketing just yet. We're slowly educating ourselves in the subject, and I'm also studying, and it's just a wonderful experience. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
So welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon, Chris.